Hey there, I'm Mark, in affiliation with Spectrum Pulse, and it looks like a quieter week with some posthumous Mac Miller impact, and it's Billboard BREAKDOwn. I don't remember. So I'm all in favor of a couple more weeks of breathing room as January's taking its sweet time on the Hot 100. Yeah, we saw some album impact from Mac Miller's second posthumous project, but truth be told, not that much. It seems that, at least for now, the Hot 100 is somewhat stable, and that might persist for a couple weeks until The Weeknd drops, and even then, given his track record with this upcoming project, I don't think there is any guarantees there. But we are getting ahead of ourselves, our top 10, where for another week, Die With A Smile by Lady Gaga and Bruno Mars held the number one, largely on chart inertia, as it's not the strongest in any one channel, and that could indeed make it vulnerable against a real challenger. And that might be DTMF by Bad Bunny at number 2, especially given its streaming dominance, except here's the thing, with it being a Spanish language song, with other cuts from the album in circulation and competition, the radio has been really slow to get on board with it. It would need a major surge, maybe a music video to make up the ground. What might have a better shot is Apartment by Rose and Bruno Mars up to number 3. The radio push is in full swing, both sales and streaming are there. It just needs to make up the margins, and it could well do that. At least for now, it got over a bar song Tipsy by Shabuzi down to number 4, probably most on the streaming margin, but this song had a surprisingly good week on the radio. Folks are not dropping this as quickly as you might expect, and for me, the song's still great. Then we got Luther by Kendrick Lamar and SZA at number 5, which has better streams and radio momentum, but it's not gaining airplay quite as fast, so the margin's not shrinking as much. And when Kendrick Lamar has a lot of songs in circulation, just like Bad Bunny, I gotta wonder if some are cannibalizing the others. And it still managed to hold over Birds of a Feather by Billie Eilish at number 6, another song that had a remarkably good radio week alongside streaming stability, and that's not precisely the case for Lose Control by Teddy Swims at number 7, which is definitely seeing losses, but it still picked up a position on sheer inertia, especially on the radio. And hell, that airplay is pretty much the only reason why it held over That's So True by Gracie Abrams up to number 8. Streaming is very stable, and it is gaining on the radio, just a little more slowly than you might expect. And that takes us to the reason that many of these songs picked up a slot, Vale Olvidable by Bad Bunny falling sharply off its gains to number 9, largely because while it has been shipped to radio, it's not really been prioritized, and any streaming loss is going to be felt sharply. Finally, getting back into the top 10, we got Love Somebody by Morgan Wallen. Even though streaming has fallen off rather sharply, the radio still adores it. We're not getting away from Morgan Wallen anytime soon, especially if the rumors of that album coming are true for this year. But before we deal with that mildly horrifying possibility, our losers and dropouts, where we really don't have that many because Bad Bunny is continuing to hold a lot of positions on the charts. He's not going anywhere. Ergo, the only major songs exiting were Residuals by Chris Brown, not complaining at all there, and Dancing Through the Flames by The Weeknd. If this does not return with the album, The Weeknd could be in real trouble. This album cycle is looking rather rough, but if we're looking at our losers here, while the story is pretty much just Bad Bunny seeing some fading of the album bomb, there are a couple exceptions near the very bottom. Off the debut, Are You Even Real by Teddy Swims featuring Giveon slipped down to 74. Probably will rebound a little bit next week. It's Okay, I'm Okay by Tate McRae continued down to 87, as did Stuff by Lil Baby featuring Travis Scott at 99. Scorsese Baby Daddy by SZA slipped down to 89, and Popular by Ariana Grande saw her recovery just erased to 94. Again, as I'm saying, the story's Bad Bunny here, and apologies in advance once again for my bad Spanish. Velda by Omar Courtz and Davey at 34, Perfumito Nuevo with Rey Now at 44, Cloud Friends at 50, Que Tu Tigre at 53, Café Con Ron with Los Pleneros de la Cresta at 58, Bocate at 59, Turista at 61, Pitoro de Coco at 65, La Mudanza at 66, and Lo Que Lo Paso a Hawaii at 73. But okay, what's filling in the gaps? Well, not much of anything if we're looking at our returns and gains, as the only one of the former Summer is Wondering Why by the Red Clay Strays back yet again at 100. And there doesn't seem to be an obvious pattern with our gains. The biggest is being Who by Jimin surging up to 25. Apparently he had a great streaming week. Similar case for Loco by Net and Vega to 43. Who knew? Then we had a couple Nashville radio pushes like Liar by Jelly Roll to 41 and 4x4 by You by Lainey Wilson to 52. And the last few, well, The Days by Crystal saw some traction to 84 off the debut, and The Largest by Big X The Plug is up to 82 because apparently the radio started getting behind this. I mean, that's kind of intriguing, especially if the streaming somehow shows up. That would be kind of rad. The song's really good. But our list of new arrivals is actually pretty reasonable here, but alright, let's get things going with number 97, Stoned by Mac Miller.
Put on a record, and I'll play you one more song.
We only have 4 Mac Miller songs to get through this week, and I'll freely admit this places me in a bit of a complicated spot. I don't tend to like posthumous albums on principle, but Mac Miller's estate seems to be one of the very, very few who knows how to handle this with grace or tact. But I was also never really a Mac Miller fan. Go check out my old reviews on my main channel. And the last posthumous project was decent, but didn't really grab me as much as I wanted. So when I heard that Balloonerism was built off of a previously completed but shelved project from a decade ago, built from an extended jam session, I really had to temper any expectations. And yeah, that was smart because it falls into that territory. The muted, watery warbles and faint electric guitars around the lumbering percussion that clips the edges of the mix across the vocal compression. It definitely has the feel of the shaggier side of early 2010s hip-hop that did not embrace trap for a song all about Mac Miller trying to convince this depressed, moody girl who doesn't communicate to get high with him, and you know where that's likely going. And when you pair that with some of the dropped rhymes and a slapdash flow, especially as Mac Miller was not the most expressive here, it reminds me a lot of the rap that got a lot of play in smoked out dorm rooms of frat guys who are trying to be sensitive. I mean, maybe to some that's nostalgic, but to me, it doesn't have a lot of charm. Not a bad melodic hook, but I'm not going back to this. Number 95, DJ's Chord Organ by Mac Miller featuring SZA.
Been driving for days, you ain't even stopped for gas, my nigga, Mr. Postman.
I remember when I first covered Z by SZA over a decade ago, and it shouldn't be as surprising as it is that she's worked with Mac Miller. Schoolboy Q and Ab Soul were both friends of his in person. They probably ran in the same circle for a little bit, and I don't think anyone could have fully predicted how big SZA would become in the decade since. But this feels like a snapshot from a far earlier time. Mac Miller barely contributes vocals beyond the outro, with more of the focus on SZA and Thundercat, all against this rickety choral organ with some shambling percussion, especially when it gets really wonky on her verse. And wow, SZA's actually improved by leaps and bounds when it comes to her expressiveness. The overdubs might be pretty, but a lot of her husky delivery feels very dated to this era. And according to her, the song hasn't changed in a decade, so we're getting this version of her. And the content, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but it feels a little in poor taste to have her verse focus on someone strung out on coke driving towards her or across the country, chasing something. It's not exactly clear. If anything, it feels more like a demo and not exactly one I like. But on that note, number 92, GBP by Central Cee featuring 21 Savage.
They went up way with a London style. We ain't got generational wealth, got a couple of mil for my unborn child. If I pay man £100,000, I can get man bum right in front of a crowd.
We don't have to make Central Cee a thing, y'all know that, right? Well, amidst a UK drill beat with a watery chipmunk sample and painfully brittle percussion with any texture sandblasted away, he got 21 Savage to help, and even though I know 21's originally from the UK, to see him on a song like this feels weird. But again, my big issue with Central Cee is how little unique personality I'm getting. There's cash and brand name flexing, but he's trying to be menacing, and not only does the production not sell it. Alongside 21 Savage, Central Cee doesn't have any tangible emotional range. He references a bunch of gangsters from around the world and he's not remotely convincing. At least 21 can handle the drill beat fine enough, even if he doesn't have much interesting to say here either. This feels more like a business agreement than a song that I'm remotely gonna care about, which was also my long underlying theory and issue with Band for Band with Lil Baby. In other words, this is thoroughly mediocre, but I also know I'm not gonna remember to really care about it anytime soon. Next, number 88, Push to Start by Tyla. Okay, wouldn't have been my choice for the next Tyla single to push. Breathe Me is right there, come on. But this is a song from the deluxe reissue of the project that has seen some worldwide traction and, okay. The big issue with Tyla is that a lot of her material plays to the same piano formula with the Afrobeats percussion, the watery melody, and the heavy choral punch-ins. But I still think it's a really good formula for her. The vocal mixing of those punch-ins doesn't quite feel as organic as I would like in order to match with the guitar rollick, and I wish the bass beat didn't feel so leaden, wish it had a bit more groove. But while the polish is a little haphazard, Tyla still has a ton of charisma, and if she wants to make a sexy, slightly confrontational dance jam with an extended car metaphor, she's more credible than many of her peers that have come before. No pun intended with that. Overall, yeah, not a lot to say. I still think this works. Let's see if this has as long as the legs as Water does too. Number 85, $5 Pony Rides by Mac Miller.
I seen a smile on the way I heard you feeling pretty lonely. Yeah. Your daddy should've got you that morning. Let me give you what you want.
Alright, finishing off, back to Mac Miller, and okay, I like this a lot more. Thundercat's thicker rollick bounces well against the fluttery keys, the swaggering jingle, the sleigh bells, and the popping percussion. Mac has more energy, even if I've never really loved his attempts at singing. And while he's still in serenade mode, there's something more hangdog and charming as he tried to give her both what she wants and what she needs. Try to fill in a gap from her times past. And while it's not that far removed from how Stoned operated, there's a little bit more dazed confusion as Mac Miller tries to stumble into what might actually help. I get the impression he doesn't really fully know. The roughness around the edges and the emotional confusion kind of tempers the instincts, and it feels very honest. It's just honestly just better constructed, a better expression of what Mac Miller's appeal was. Wouldn't exactly call it great, but I get the charm here. I'll take it. And finally, number 77, Funny Papers by Mac Miller.
The moon's wide awake with a smile on his face as he smuggled constellations in a suitcase. Don't you love silence?
I was a little bit surprised that this song, not $5 Pony Rides, wound up as the most successful from the mini album bomb here. Apparently the fans have known about this one for a while, even as it's nestled deeper into the track list. It feels kind of cryptic now with the line, "Didn't think anyone died on a Friday," when Mac Miller himself passed away on a Friday. But I think that's not quite why this has had that deeper resonance. The stumbling pianos and the guitars around the heavier drums and Thundercat's bass, with probably the stickiest melody of the songs that debuted overall, and Mac Miller approaching death and birth and even his own success with a mix of bewilderment, wry contemplation, a little bit of low-key humor around his depression and his drug use, and some existential musings along the way, betting on just enough to win one night and find that escape. And I kind of love how relaxed and unpretentious it feels. I mean, that's kind of his baseline appeal. Mac was never a great singer or a rapper, but he's more on point here, especially with the overdub punch-ins, and the vibe is really compelling in its wake. It's relaxing, I get it. And you know what? Yeah, I really understand why folks like this. It's a great little song, and while Mac Miller still really isn't my thing, it's a damn shame we didn't get more like this. Maybe I would have come to appreciate him a little more. But that's our week. Not a lot here, but the best and worst fall out fast, with Funny Papers by Mac Miller snagging the top spot, while GBP by Central Cee featuring 21 Savage handily gets the worst. Next week, look, I don't expect anything from FKA Twigs to cross over, but maybe Teddy Swims will see something, or that Bruno Mars Sexy Red collab. We will have to see. But until then, I'm Mark, you're watching Billboard Breakdown, affiliated with Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.